Raise your hand if you're here, would you? Okay, are we rolling? I guess? All righty. This disc, I'm rolling the wrong way. This was the last bit of information regarding the climate change, etc. I would say that Al Gore is really on the right track, and we're on the wrong track because he is. Now, in 1958, Meier wrote, published, and sent around 25 copies of a letter of 160 specific predictions. Number 6 included the following. In Iraq, a war will be led through the United States of America through their country's president. However, this will be without success, for which reason one of his sons, who will likewise be the USA's head of power, will, in the 3rd millennium, unleash a second war in Iraq, which will ultimately lead to an unbelievable disaster and to torturing as well as to mass murder through U.S. armed forces and the rebellious. Number 23, because of unrestricted prostitution, in about 25 years, an already embryonic, deadly epidemic will develop worldwide that will be named AIDS and will finally cost several hundred million lives. Here we have, in 1958, through the madness of his overpopulation, the human has already detrimentally altered the world and the climate in such a way that a climatic warming becomes apparent that will be carried far into the 3rd millennium and release monstrous natural catastrophes, etc., on environmental damage. 1958. Number 83 in this list. And it will be that the fanatical Islamists' bloody revenge on the distant descendants of the Christians for the earlier crucifixions by the Christians will come into being when they accomplish their deadly and destructive acts through irrepressible terror all over the world. This next one has to do with the threatening thunder that cracks over the earth due to the criminal national powers of the USA when it releases war into the wide world, and Israel's national forces spread just the same terror, murder, death, and corruption as the Palestinians themselves, from whom uncountable suicide bombers will go all over the world, etc. 85, organized murder and terror commandos will live secretly in cities worldwide and plan and carry out deadly attacks. It goes on and on about the environmental and terrorist and war consequences, the overpopulation related. So why are the prophecies being fulfilled? I call this the law of the pendulum. So let's pretend that this is a pendulum. Imagine that you see a pendulum. And what we have here has the word love written on it. Not bad. It goes out and it comes back. Likewise, hate, war, aggression. Now, what isn't known to most people, certainly not in our country, is that in the past 60 years, the U.S., its governments, have moved against people over 200 times, unprovoked attacks of aggression against other countries, other peoples, meaning everything from destabilizations, installations of dictators, raping the mineral rights and enforcing terror in a country in order to destabilize it, to outright attacks and bombing. Over 200 times in the past 60 years, not one of the countries that we aggressed against ever attacked us. They didn't initiate anything. It was judged to be in Americans' best interest. So we sent out this pendulum time and time again, and we never saw an immediate consequence to it. Nonetheless, in the past 60 years, wars, revolutions, uprisings, some fomented with the assistance of our or other secret services and military intelligences have destabilized and upset things in the world, and then we get an attack on our soil, or we get a problem of people maybe who were on that country when this thing went out, now they're hitching a ride back. Hey, that must be a neat place. They took everything we got. This isn't about being anti-American. If you're Russian or Chinese or German or anything else, French, British, and you've done that kind of thing, it's coming back in its own time. Cause and effect. So there is a really beautiful religious saying, right? Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. So if we were truly a country that operated under the best of that Christian or Judeo-Christian tenet, which also has been said as a man or a person sows, thus shall they reap. What goes around, comes around is our kind of current version of it. Cause and effect, do unto others. Well, in this little cosmology with the law of the pendulum, environmentally, politically, socially, religiously, in every way, we're simply getting the dumb law of the universe returning opportunities to us to taste the experience that we sent out or had been sent out in our name. So really, what am I trying to prove? I said this a couple times before. And I'm trying to prove the prophecies in the Meier case wrong. I want to prove the ultimate prophecies that are here. I want to prove them wrong. That's a much better thing to do than to just try to scare people with prophecies and predictions and tell us we're all doomed and look how bad we've been. But remember, we don't want to speak in sweet tones or in the saccharine language of diplomacy or New Age nonsense. When a thing is a thing, we better call it the thing that it is. We're in trouble. And it doesn't take an extraterrestrial or a one-armed farmer or any of us to know that that's the case. So how can we change things? Globally, we need a global approach. Strangely enough, there is a global approach. Now, you probably, again, won't be able to read all this from every position, so let me tell you, there's something that's called the Salome Peace Meditation. And this peace meditation was brought into our awareness maybe 15, 20 some years ago. It is said to be composed of words from the ancient Lyrian language that was spoken on earth 289,000 years ago, then again 13,500. It's speculative, this part, but this is the information and you can think through it. These were descendants of the various extraterrestrials that inhabited this planet for a short period. They claimed that by speaking or thinking, TH, this sentence in unison as a group, certain impulses are released from the stored data banks known as the Akashic records. These records envelop the earth, and every thought and every other impulse generated by any and all of the humans who've ever lived, currently live, or will ever live gets stored in this bank. We've heard about this from other teachings. Now, through the accumulation of stored unconscious impulses within every meditator, and because of the intensity they generate, they're done in conjunction with 3.5 billion extraterrestrials at the same time. This sets forth energy that can help to displace negative force fields and cover them and increasingly neutralize them. A lot of these force fields have been generated because of religion, blood sacrifice, wars, cults, sects, every imaginable thing, and our own ignorant thinking, right? This is a simple means that the Pleiadians say, this is one action that if a greater number of Earth humans would join in doing this once or twice a month, you would make an exponential effect energetically on your planet. So, does this look familiar? This is a symbol. Remember I told you that Meier learned over 3.5 million different symbols. This is a symbol for peace. It's a tree of life, right? The energy goes up. You see the black and white structure in the middle. If you turn that upside down, that's our peace symbol. However, Our peace symbol, according to this information, is a symbol of death. We are marching around for the past 30-odd years and putting bumper stickers and everything else on a symbol of death, the cross of Peter, et cetera, et cetera. There's information, you can read about this in detail and determine for yourself whether it makes sense to keep doing this symbol. However, if you turned your peace symbol upside down, this is a typical peace symbol. I've got another one here, a little nicer. This energy, as opposed to this energy, this is the sword down here, the hilt of the sword. This is the tree of life. We're being asked to consider, even just turn our peace symbols right side up. Look at it and see what it evokes in you. Compare it. Don't believe it. Work with it. See if there's something that happens for you. Maybe, maybe not. Now, I'm going to try to activate this without taking this off so you can hear how this is actually pronounced. Let's see. Don't know if it'll work on this. Oops, doesn't seem to want to play. I wanted you to be able to hear the actual pronunciation, so I'll do it for you. Salome Gamnan Ben Urda Ganiber Asala Hesperona. Peace be on earth and among all beings. Now, I got a question for you, and this is free will here. Would you like to partake in an experiment in which I can guarantee you this number of people on earth have never done this before? Pronounce the words? Why not, right? So we'll take a couple minutes. We've got a little bit of time, if you're still awake. And I'll have to kick back to it when it jumps. So the first word is Salome. It's a long A. Salome. Salome, right? The next word is Gam. It's pretty simple, Gam. And the next word is Nan. Let's do those three words. Salome, Gamnan. Now the next word is Ben Urda. Yeah, almost like Ben Hur, but Ben Urda. So it's Salome, Gamnan, Ben Urda. Let's get to the rest of it. This will jump here, maybe the same, but Ganiber, Ganiber, Asala, Hesperona. So let's try it together. Salome, Gamnan, Ben Urda, Ganiber, Asala, Hesperona. Now I'm going to ask this. I'll explain how this usually works. And if it dips off, I'll bring it back up. This is done for 20 minutes on the first and third Saturdays. Some people do it also on Sundays of every month. Some people do it once a month, one Saturday of the month for 20 minutes. And the times, it's all on the website. Again, it's something free you can do. Yes, there's a little pyramid that you can use and all that stuff, but don't worry about it if that doesn't float your boat. The intention, because as it says here, peace be on earth and among all beings, right? Is there anything wrong with that statement? Can we live with that? Though it's what the words mean. So it's not, I pledge allegiance. It's nothing like that. What's that?
Some idiot will find some fault at that.
Yes, there's always some way to find fault with plenty of ways to do that. So let's just try this a few times. If we can do this 10 times, and you just see if you can do it, and feel the vibration for yourself. All right, I'm going to try to lead it, and it goes like this. Salome, Gamnan, Ben Urda, Ganiber, Asala, Hesperona. Salome, Gamnan, Ben Urda, Ganiber, Asala, Hesperona. Salome, Gamnan, Ben Urda, Ganiber, Asala, Hesperona. Salome, Gamnan, Ben Urda, Ganiber, Asala, Hesperona, Salome, Gamnan, Ben Urda, Ganiber, Asala, Hesperona, Salome, Gamnan, Ben Urda, Ganiber, Asala, Hesperona, Salome, Gamnan, Ben Urda, Ganiber, Asala, Hesperona. Maybe that's short, but I don't want to keep you at it too long. When it's done in a group, each person can actually do it at their own rate of speed. There's a little CD they have in Switzerland, so you'll hear Salome, Gamnan, somebody has Salome, Gamnan. They're just putting it out there. And if this mechanism actually helps us, far be it from me to not participate. Now, the Talmud of Emmanuel. This is the next segment here we're going to get into. I just want to say one thing about this whole Meier case again, because there are people that still would say, oh, it's obviously a hoax. The one-armed guy fashioned all these little things by himself. Oh no, he had accomplices, even though in 8 years of on-site investigation, not one accomplice, not one detailed model, no explanation for the sounds and the 17 people that were present when Meier recorded it, and they were analyzed in 3 different sound labs, and they're irreproducible to this day. No, it's got to be a hoax. So people should start to ask themselves what their vested interest is in thinking that the case is a hoax, and in swallowing hook, line, and sinker every other approach about so-called extraterrestrial contact that has, in my opinion, no content. This may be troubling content, but it ain't short of content. It's kind of like when you think of Atlantis. Don't you get that sinking feeling? Yeah, okay. All right. The Talmud Emmanuel, with the complete prophecies of Elijah and Jeremiah. So let me explain that we mentioned before Enoch. We have the Enoch or Henoch prophecies available on my website. They're also in the book, And Still They Fly. You can read them. The prophecies of Elijah and Jeremiah that are just being produced in English, for the first time, they are mind-boggling, as is the Talmud Emmanuel. The prophecies of Enoch, Elijah, and Jeremiah have been in the keeping of the Pleiaren ever since they were written or, expressed by the prophets, because most prophets were not their own scribes. They had scribes who wrote things down. They kept them, and they kept them for the reason that they would be expunged from the Bible. They would be altered. Different versions would come out that would be really nice and New Agey and feel good, but they wouldn't be the real deal according to this information. So this book comes out within a few weeks now, and it's the last translation of it, because the German translation is always has to be refined in terms of the meanings of the words. I should point out to you here, this is Meier when he's about 26. This is a man named Issa Rashid and a friend and his daughter. Issa Rashid is a pivotal person in this whole case. He was an ex-Greek Orthodox priest who, along with Meier, co-discovered in 1963 4 animal skin-wrapped, resin-encrusted scrolls, series of scrolls written in Aramaic. Issa Rashid coincidentally just happened to not only read Aramaic, but spoke and read German. Meier and he were allegedly led telepathically to this area where there was like a little hillside. There was a small hole that was discernible, and they were being led to this, so they dug it out. They went in with their flashlights, and they found what was a very ancient tomb, stones on the floor of the tomb They dug around, they opened, they pulled stones up and found the scrolls underneath, along with several other artifacts that were, quote unquote, meant for Meier. This was on the outskirts of Jerusalem in an old tomb. We'll start to put the pieces together here if they already aren't very obvious. In 1970, the first translation of about a third of this document was sent to Meier by Issa Rashid. Shortly thereafter, he and his family fled into Lebanon to a refugee village because people had found out, he lived in Jerusalem, they found out that he was in possession of some very important scrolls. And both Christian and Jewish interests were not happy about this and wanted to take possession of the scrolls. He sequestered these scrolls in a building in which they took refuge in this village, and within about a week's time, the Israelis had come into this village as an attack and leveled that particular village. There actually are newspaper clippings that support the attack of this village. Issa Rashid and his family escaped with their lives. The scrolls were lost, either taken into the possession of the Israelis or burned in the attack. They don't know for sure. Now, they get published by Meier in German in 1978. They attract the attention of a man named James Deardorff, who says, aha, another Bible hoax, let me at it. James Deardorff is a retired professor from Oregon State, I think meteorology, comparative religions, various areas in which he had his fields of interest and expertise. He then discovers, after over a year of analyzing and comparing, that the Talmud Emmanuel resolves over 335 inconsistencies in the book of Matthew, 100 or more of which were not even known about or discussed until after not only the discovery, but the publication in German of the document. One of the amazing things in here is that he determines that the book of Matthew is a derivation of the Talmud Emmanuel, not the other way around. And that the book of Matthew is written approximately 120 AD, according to some information. This could be wrong. I'm not exactly sure what's agreed on there. But what's very interesting is that Judas Iscariot in the Talmud Emmanuel is not Emmanuel, a.k.a. Jesus' betrayer. He's his trusted scribe and friend. We learn from this, we learned in the Meier material, that Emmanuel was conceived at the behest of the God, the Ishwish of the time, who was not the God of the Old Testament. He was not at that time and in this region Jehovah or Kamagal, but he was another god named Pleos. And the Pleiaran father was indeed a Pleiaran human named Gabriel, as we are familiar with from the New Testament. Emmanuel then is the fifth prophet in this specific lineage, as I mentioned before, and it is said that he survived the crucifixion and traveled with his family and Judas to India. He went through other countries on the way, preaching and getting thrown out of those countries as well. The god of the time of his adult life was named Calatan, not Pleos, because Pleos had done his bit for having Emmanuel procreated and then went back to the Pleiades star system where they'd already been living in peace for 40,000 plus years and change, and they were leaving another prophet here to try to get us straight. Good luck. Remember, these are human beings, and there's an axiom that I have, and it goes like this. Wherever and whenever human beings are involved, things can and ultimately will get screwed up. This is no exception. According to Meier, and I asked this of him, he did not marry Mary Magdalene. She was, quote unquote, a woman friend, but he did marry an Indian woman after his mother had died. I think his mother died when he was 38, according to the story around the Talmud. And he and his wife married, procreated numerous descendants, quote unquote, one of whom was a son named Joseph. And after Emmanuel died between 105 and 120, and is buried near Srinagar. His son took the Talmud Emmanuel scrolls, the 4 scrolls, as Emmanuel had dictated to him to do, and went into Jerusalem, where now nobody is going to remember a non-existent son who's not going to say, "Hi, my dad was nailed up here," nothing like that. So he goes to where the tomb is, secures, hides the scrolls, where they are intended to rest for nearly 2,000 years. Now, Emmanuel, in the Talmud, foretells the coming of the next prophet by name, and that he will also be a true prophet whose teachings, like his own, like Emmanuel's own, will be falsified and made into cults and will evolve into a fanatical, dangerous cult. Now, Emmanuel, remember, the Jesus of the Bible is speaking to the Hebrews and Israelites, the scribes, the Pharisees, etc., right? I'm not a Bible scholar, so he's excoriating those people at the time. Those people in the temples, those people in the countryside, wherever he found people who he felt were being heretical and not true to spiritual teaching. And he said to the Israelites of the time, my own distant forefathers, I presume, because you have stolen these lands from the rightful owners, because you have burned and taken that which was not your own and deprived these people of their land, in 5 centuries comes another man, a true prophet too. And he will attract followers as I will under a false name, and his followers will give your descendants no peace until the end of time, unless your distant descendants make a true and just peace with the distant descendants of the rightful owners of these lands. He says that in the future, human beings of the future time are going to build these vehicles that can travel on the earth and on the water and in the skies, that they're going to fight with each other by creating metallic projectiles. They're going to fill them with the deadly cornerstones of life and deadly foul air, atomic, biological, chemical weapons. This was discovered in 63 and published the first time in 78. Okay. Then he mentions that human beings and their lust and greed for power are going to ignite the very oil of the earth and darken the skies, and soot will fall all over. Does anybody remember something like that happening? How about 1990, the Kuwaiti oil fires? Now look, here's a document that we can say, well, we can't prove it was discovered in 1963, but we can prove it was published in 78. Okay, atomic biological missiles, well, maybe someone could figure that out. Now we've got the darkened skies from the oil fires. Then he goes on and talks about a coming destruction of Jerusalem that reads very much like a nuclear attack. And of course, as I already said, again, he says, this is avoidable if Israel will make a true and just peace with the people that will no longer be on their ancestors' land. He says then that there is a danger of a new worldwide war, but simultaneously, while these terrible crises are coming to the fore during this time, the true teachings will again be presented to the world, and that they're not his teachings. They are the true eternal teachings of creation as have been presented before and ignored, corrupted, redacted, edited, eliminated from each of the prophets that preceded him. And he says that he will return, or his spirit, a new personality, will come again during that time to announce the celestial sons, meaning the people that would come from the heavens. Yeah? We okay there so far? I mean, that's even kind of hinted at, I think, in the New Testament. He says that the new prophet is going to live in a northern country. He's not going to have as much power over health and illness and all as he, Emmanuel, would have. But the eternal teachings will be revealed anew through this man and spread throughout the world in small groups over time until the truth is known to everyone on earth. But that time is going to take several centuries, up to 700 to 800 years past this time, before we've straightened ourselves out, unless we decide that we would like to get at it a little quicker. Now, in Srinagar, India, at the base of a tomb there, I think it's called Isa's tomb or something like that, are the impressions, the markings of 2 human feet with marks in the center of the feet, somewhere in here, of nails of a man who had been crucified. And I don't have the exact wording, but I think there's a legend that goes along with this. Here lies a great teacher who was, crucified in his country and came here to teach us something. There's also the tomb of Mary somewhere to be found, the mother of Emmanuel. Now, is this a new religion? Is that what everybody's being set up for? Is that what the Billy Meier case is about? Well, remember, no. Illogical premise, what's in this book is true because the book says it's true. Now, remember I said that the Talmud Emmanuel was destroyed or is no longer in Meier's possession, the original, right? Well, this really irks people. Well, we don't have an original. And I thought about it a lot. And I thought, well, even the Bibles were composed and compiled and all that and edited decades, centuries after the original events may have occurred. There's something brilliant here. If we're trying to get away from this, what's in this book is true, the last thing we need is another precious ancient relic to go, look, it's in the book, so it's got to be true. It's the truth. Billy Meier's telling the truth. The teachings of Emmanuel. Let's worship Emmanuel or Billy or whatever. Big mistake. So I think, and I've always thought this, the Playaran people, if these are real beings, and you notice I've never said they are real, I've said alleged every time, because I can't prove their existence. I think I can make the best case for it. But if they are existing, and if those are their spaceships, and if they really can travel through space and possibly through time, they allegedly took Meier back to meet Emmanuel. That's pretty mind-blowing. That's in the film. You'll hear about that. If that's true, I hope that indicates that they are a few curves ahead of us on the road, and they might have come to some position to say, well, let's let the thing get crisped. And somebody says, well, there won't be an original left. And somebody else says, great. No more worship of books. We're trying to get people out of the age of beliefs and into the age of knowledge. Let's make sure that they can't lock onto another thing, because we're leaving the age of beliefs for the age of knowledge. Knowledge and wisdom require experience and thinking, not turning our power over to other relics, books, etc. It's an inside job. And you are the authority in your life. So consider and think about this. The Talmud Emmanuel is here and being introduced to help undo the presumed lies of the last 2,000 years. And that's going to hit a lot of people just to hear that. That's going to make some funny stuff. And we have a workshop that you might want to hang out for. Emmanuel, you will be misunderstood and denounced because Earth humans are still ignorant and addicted to delusionary beliefs. They believe that God is creation itself and not the ruler of the celestial sons and these human lineages. Earth people attribute to him the omnipotence of creation and glorify him as creation itself. Maybe they're talking about Calatan at that point. But God is a terrestrial human being like all the celestial sons and the terrestrial humans, except that he is vastly greater in consciousness than they are. Creation, however, is of immeasurably higher standing than God, the Lord over the celestial sons and terrestrial humans, because creation is the immeasurable enigma. Emmanuel, you will also be slandered as God and his only begotten Son, and you too will be equated with the mysterious creation. Do not heed these false teachings, however, because millennia will pass before the people of these human lineages are capable of recognizing the truth, and much human blood will be shed because of you, including your own and that of countless generations. Notwithstanding, fulfill your mission as the King of Wisdom, as the son of Gabriel, the celestial son. The law for your creation was issued in the name of God, so that you may serve as prophet and pioneer of wise knowledge for these human lineages. Fulfill your mission unperturbed by the irrationality and all false teachings of the scribes and Pharisees, and despite the disbelieving people. Hence, following the fulfillment of your mission, centuries and 2 millennia will pass before the truth of the knowledge you brought to the people will be recognized and disseminated by a few humans. Not until the time of space-traveling machines will the truth break through and gradually shake the false teachings that you are the Son of God or creation. And this will be the time when we, celestial sons, begin to reveal ourselves anew to earth humans, when they will have become knowing and will threaten the structure of the heavens with their acquired powers. Now look, here is the alleged original Lord's Prayer. I'll read it to you. It'll be available on this DVD, and it's in the Talmud too. He says, when you pray, you shall call upon the omnipotence of the Spirit and not babble misleading nonsense like the idol worshippers, the ignorant and the selfish, because they think they are heard when they use many words. The creation spirit part of the human has no need for many words. However, humans need the knowledge of how powerful it is. Therefore, pray to the omnipotence of the Spirit in the knowledge that its greatness and power are infinite. If you do not know how to pray directly to the almighty power of the Spirit, make use of something sacred by which you can reach the Spirit. But be never like the ignorant, the hypocrites, the idol worshippers, and the selfish, who worship something sacred in the belief that the omnipotence of the Spirit dwells within it, including in books and texts, etc. Be aware, however, that the almighty power of the Spirit always dwells within you, regardless of your usage of a sacred object or place. Therefore, pray as one who knows. Thus, you should pray as follows. My Spirit, you exist within omnipotence. May your name be holy. May your kingdom incarnate itself. All right, I guess they're going to try to get this on. They're going to try and get this on. I'm talking. There we go. Let's start from the beginning of this prayer, if you don't mind, and we'll go through it. This isn't going to be a religious lesson. Please don't take it that way. My Spirit, you exist within omnipotence. May your name be holy. May your kingdom incarnate itself within me. May your power unfold itself within me, on earth and in the heavens. Give me today my daily bread, that I may recognize my wrongdoings and the truth, and lead me not into temptation and confusion, but deliver me from error. For yours is the kingdom within me, and the power and the knowledge forever. Amen. When you pray to your Spirit, it will give you what you request. Have trust in this knowledge, and you will receive. However, if you believe in the false teachings that the power and Spirit do not dwell within you, then you will be without knowledge and will live in spiritual poverty. That's enough of that for right now. You can always read it in the book if you want and think through it. But it's a very different perspective.
And Emmanuel said, truly, I have not come to bring peace, but the sword of knowledge about the power of the Spirit which dwells within humans. Therefore, while we may be at a UFO and ET conference and everything else, and things are fascinating that appear in the sky or wherever, it is about us. That is what the Meier case is about. So there are also, and I'm not going to read all of this to you because it would really put you to sleep, although it should ultimately awaken you when you read it on your own. But this was from a contact with Semyaze that Meier had early on, the 10th contact, and she starts off, the human bears a spirit that does not die nor sleep during the deepest sleep. Every human has his own spirit, creation, truth, knowledge, imperishable life, etc. That's what all of the prophets, all of them, were trying to bring to us. But as soon as that my mother told me a story many years ago, and I didn't get it at the time. I don't know if you'll get it now. There were two guys walking down the street. One of them's a regular guy, and one of them's the devil. They're following somebody in front of them. And as this guy's walking, he suddenly bends down, he picks something up, and he's happy and ecstatic, and he clutches it to his chest. The devil starts bouncing up and down with joy and glee. And the guy next to him says, hey, excuse me, what are you so happy about? The devil stops bouncing from him, and he says, he just discovered the truth. So the guy says, well, wait a minute. It sounds like you're out of business. If he discovered the truth, what are you so excited about? He says, I'm going to help him organize it. So all of this contact, this is a beautiful, it goes on for like 200 sentences, and it's probably the most inspirational thing I've ever read because it just keeps on reflecting you back internally to then that which created all things and sustains everything and our connection to it. There's no fear, there's no threats, there's no God taking side in football games or wars, there's nobody saying if you don't do this and look that way, you're going, I'm going to be dipping you forever in a molten lake. There's no harps to play. It's like there's another picture. So as I say, this goes on for some time and it's quite beautiful. The Spirit is the wonder of all wonders, and all power emerges from it. Again, from the Talmud, so it will come true in 2 times 1,000 years when humans have become knowledgeable. My actual unfalsified teachings revealed anew. The new prophet of that distant future will not possess as much strength and power over evil and sickness, but his knowledge will surpass mine, and his revelations about my real teachings will shake the foundations of the entire earth. For in his time, the world will be inundated by my teachings as falsified by the distorters of the scriptures, and it will be living in false religious cults that bring death. It will be a time when wars from space begin to threaten, and many new gods will seek to rule over the earth. Truly, truly, I say to you, the new prophet will be persecuted, not only by a wrong-minded people, as will happen to me, but also by the whole world and by many deluded religious cults which will bring forth many false prophets. Yet before the end of 2 times 1,000 years, the new prophet will reveal my unfalsified teachings to small groups, he says, just as he teaches them. Nevertheless, his path will be very difficult and full of obstacles because he will begin his mission in a peace-loving country in the north, which will be dominated, however, by a strict and false religious cult based upon scriptural distortions of my teachings. Thus I prophesy, and thus it shall be. And this, remember I said, Emmanuel prophesies the destruction of Jerusalem as well. When the land seized by the Israelites is attacked, people shouldn't go back and get things. Pregnant women will suffer. They will construct machines of metal. This is all in the Talmud where you can read this for yourself. Mighty nations, if they say when the war time would come, if we allow that, if at that time mighty nations were not to intervene as once did the celestial sons, to bring a halt to the unrestrained madness and deadly conduct of demented dictators. Can you think of any? Truly, I say to you, I tell you, no human being would survive. He talks about the huge population that time and says this is what the law ordains because people have violated it and will continue to violate it into the distant future. This was the quote where he talks about the makeup of the earth, sky, and air will be disturbed, and the land will burn because of the black oil of the earth, ignited by people's craving for power. Now, he says here, the sky will darken and rage for 1,000 days. That didn't turn out to be true, or they're going to do it again, I hope not. But this is, 2,000 years in advance, you get it off. You hit the big ones, but you miss the duration. I don't know. Figure it out for yourself. And as he says, creation alone stands far above all humankind, and it alone deserves honor and praise, just as it renders honor and praise to the absolute power above it. Emmanuel, in his time, is saying, we live in a universe, a creation, and there are creations above and beyond it. This is evolution. And yet, if you look at the Meier case, they debunk Darwinian evolution. That's another story. We have that on the website. And that people must not put God, the terrestrial ruler, above the creation. Since I will certainly return at that time, I will let them recognize me. This is as the law and destiny ordain it, and so it shall be. But remember, this is the most important slide within the context of the Meier case and what we're leading to here. No deification, no worship, no exaltation, no adoration, a little respect for a job that's very thankless. For as lightning flashes and illuminates from start to finish, so will be my coming in the future, when I will bring the teachings anew and announce the legions of the celestial sons. At that time, I will have a renewed life and will again be accused of deception and blasphemy across the entire world, until the teachings of truth will bring about insight, change in the people. And this time the prophet will type his own teachings, and he will ride with the celestial sons and will take photographs from inside one of the craft, of the other craft, outside, to fulfill that part of the prophecy. And then he will type the prophecies and the teachings for this time himself, after losing his arm in a bus accident that he was warned about 10 years in advance. And we will bring you, by the summer of this year, a fairly complete new film that we want you to see a little bit of now.
Wir sind hier auf der Erde, unser Leben zu führen.
We are here on earth to live our lives so that the consciousness can evolve, so it can collect knowledge and wisdom, build love, freedom, and harmony, so that the human can learn he stands here in the material life on earth, exactly as other human civilizations do on other worlds and in the entire universe.
Welten im gesamten Universum dasselbe tun.
Nein, ich kann das allein, ich bin kein Baby mehr.
Mein Name ist Eduard Albert Meier.
My name is Edward Albert Meier, but around the world I'm simply known as Billy. I received this name when I was in Tehran on my journeys. Since then, this name has remained with me.
Und seither ist mir dieser Name geblieben. Hier ein Andenken, dass man
Here's a souvenir that they had nailed onto the main door to my home. It's enough, you dog, you will be put down. Shortly after they had nailed this letter to my...
Oops. Sorry, folks. I'll talk over this to that point. I'm afraid the thing dims automatically. This is an entire documentary on the life of Meier, people who know him, around him. It's not going to be just a love affair. We have interviews with religious leaders and skeptics and people who oppose the ideas that are promulgated in the case. We have the controversy of Meier's wife. Many people know that she is a detractor of the case.
We
now.
are here on earth to live
We
our
have
lives
film of
so
her
that the
in the 1970s endorsing and talking about her own sightings. So allow me just to talk about this for a second, and we'll come back to it. So I want you to just see this little bit at the beginning and know that this is going to be nearly 2 hours on the Meier case and all the information that we can put in it.
Im gesamten Universum dasselbe tun.
Nein, ich kann das allein. Ich bin kein Baby mehr.
Mein Name ist Eduard Albert Meier.
My name is Edward Albert Meier, but around the world I'm simply known as Billy. I received this name when I was in Tehran on my journeys. Since then, this name has remained with me.
Und seither ist mir dieser Name geblieben. Hier ein Andenken, dass man...
Here's a souvenir that they had nailed onto the main door to my home. It's enough, you dog, you will be put down. Shortly after they had nailed this letter to my door, there was another
an
attempt,
die Türe genagelt war, hat es dann einige Tage später
and they tried again to catapult me out of my life and shot at me.
aus dem Leben befördern wollen und hat auf mich geschossen. Und hier ist der Platz, als ich
And here is the place that I once was told to come for a contact. Jacobus was here with me and 2 other men in the late night hours. They shot at me from down there.
Da hat man von hier drunten hat man auf mich geschossen. Das habe ich aber Tage zuvor.
But I had dreamt about this days before and had hung a metal plate in front of my chest under the jacket and an agenda. And the shot went into the agenda and into the metal plate.
Dann genau in die Agenda rein und in die Metallplatte und so hat es mir das Leben gerettet. Durch einen Traum, den ich zuvor hatte.
And so my life was saved through the dream I had. Because I always and always have dreams which show me events that will come true in the future.
Can we all have dreams like that?
Es können eigentlich alle Menschen.
Actually, all humans can have these kinds of dreams if they concentrate and start to steer their dreams. And when they make themselves somehow capable to have visions through their dreams, they will have truth dreams, and so on and so forth.
Irgendwie durch die Träume eben Visionen.
But it depends naturally upon the human concentrating hard and using his consciousness to truly direct the energies and powers that come out of the
Der
consciousness.
Mensch sehr konzentriert sein Bewusstsein dazu benutzt, nach der linken Seite hierauf.
Up to the left side over here where the road goes into the forest, Langholz is situated there, and that also has gotten us great photographs.
Gegeben.
Where are we going now, Billy?
Down there to the lower Satellek, where we are able to make photographs of Semjase's beamship.
Machen konnten mit dem Strahlschiff von Semjase.
That's the trailer. Thank you. You saw the roads that he was walking down there? Many people here, you've seen the photographs in the books, right? And it's so easy for the skeptics and the debunkers to say, well, he's hanging models. Walk those roads, up and down those. That was one of the easy locations. And you saw the photograph taken over a log pile that was there. You try to figure out how a one-armed man, even with a crew of elves, would get out there and take 1,200 photographs, clear photos, 8 films, a video, etc., and fool people for 30 years with it. It's mind-boggling. And we just hope that we'll present both sides. We're going to have a skeptic in there explaining how it was all hoax, too. So it'll be interesting. So do you really think that this is all still about extraterrestrials, UFOs, gods, and exopolitics and ascension and angels and masters and gurus and cults and saints and etc.? Or is it really about us and about this? Truly, I've not come to bring peace, but the sword of knowledge about the power of the Spirit which dwells within humans. I was looking for somebody to believe in, someone who'd save the day when things go wrong, someone who'd live and die for all the things I only cry for, someone who'd change my life, change it with a song. And I was looking for someone with all the answers, someone who'd show me how to play the game. to be stronger than the madness, all the anger, or stronger than the sadness, all the anger and the madness. But how long can I hide the one I'm trying to find? I'll be my own hero. I'll make my own magic. I'll change the endings that used to be tragic. I'll be all I am without armor or mask. I'll be my own hero at last. And now I don't need someone to come and save me and tell me how my life's supposed to be. I keep on taking chances, finding my own answers. Love's the only savior I will ever need. And I'll be my own hero. I'll make my own magic. I'll change the endings that used to be tragic. And all through my life, I'll let love lead me on. I'll be my own hero. I'll sing my own song. Thank you. Thank you. We talk now about an individual approach. And that's where we come to the standing in spirit part, which is a workshop. And I'm going to give you the option, because we just would roll right into it. If anybody here doesn't want to participate, whatever reason, we'll give a minute or two for those that feel they don't want to go through this. Anybody that wants to go through it, this won't be an ordeal. It's fairly direct and to the point, but use your own discretion, your own tolerance, your own bladder, whatever it may be, okay? So let me just say a little bit about this, and if you're leaving, we'll understand. I think in the beginning I showed you my little resume, and I said I created this in 1990. And recently, Meier and the people in Switzerland have asked that I do this workshop at the end of every lecture, so that we're not just focused on all this stuff, phenomenon, text, everything else, but we find, and many of you may already have a good way, this is another way to make the internal connection. Remember, wisdom is the greatest asset of humanity, and so is the created will, which is Lord over love and happiness. But all of this is meaningless without the power of the Spirit. And the last quote before we get into this: there is no higher happiness than wisdom, no better friend than knowledge, and no other Savior than the power of the Spirit. So I'm not really big on affirmations, and naturally, shortly after I'd come up with this process, woke up in the middle of the night and had to write this thing out. I've revised it a little, but what the heck. By the love, power, wisdom, force, and will of my consciousness, I disconnect, complete, forgive, and release these limiting patterns, influences, behaviors, and beliefs. I remove and replace them with the positive, loving qualities of my own consciousness and spirit. Now, what I should say is this. That's our operating principle. That's our context. That is not to say that what we're going to do is say affirmations over things inside of us that are not true, which is why I don't particularly like affirmations per se. What we're going to do, those of us that participate, and this is a silent, basic, personal participation, we're going to, if you agree, let the operating principle be as such, that it is our consciousness and the qualities, the positive and loving qualities of our own consciousness and spirit that will guide us, and we will then recognize that only that which we are ready to receive and perceive from within ourselves, brought to us by our own higher level of inner awareness. No angels, no guides, gods, facilitators. I'm just kind of here to make noises so you go through some steps. But it is your inner awareness that is your guide. Neutral positive thinking is a teaching of the Pleyar and Meier material. And it means that we first have to discover what is, whether we like it or not. I sometimes say that a negative aspect of America, not a positive one, there are positive ones, is our allergic reaction to things we don't like, what we don't want to hear about, we don't like that they exist, they inconvenience us. In our personal lives, we have the opportunity to mature our perceptions beyond like and dislike and let what we don't like or what's uncomfortable to us present itself with our inner consciousness being our own guide, that we may then accept the reality of that non-preferred state and process it and come to remove and replace with the positive, loving qualities of consciousness and spirit. So the way this works is, and we'll go through it in a moment, I'm just kind of giving you the ground rules. We first identify an inner conflict, a dissonance, something we want to change, a fear, whatever. We take a look within, we sense it, we feel it, we get the images, the thoughts, the emotions and feelings, and we locate them. We get a sense of where they reside in us, because our emotional content usually, and mental content also has location. And a lot of this is familiar to people if you meditate or have done some other processes. What we're going to do is we're going to observe, and breath by breath, we're going to receive what is, and we're going to allow consciousness to take it and to let it go. We're going to not struggle against it. We're not going to want to defend or negotiate or judge against ourselves, but we probably will at some point or other. So when we notice that, that's the thing we're working on. Are you understanding this so far, or is it too mental? A little of each? You getting it? Okay. So if I have something that I'm upset about, and this is how this thing came about for me. I had a relationship that went south, and really bad, way south. And I had a big knot in my stomach about it, and I was doing some standing qigong, and suddenly the voice popped in my head and said, ask your spirit to show you the core of the pattern. And I said, okay, yeah, whatever. And suddenly I'm reliving my childhood with my father. It had nothing to do with my mother or another girlfriend. And I'm in this big emotional discomfort while I'd become fairly still just standing there. But also, I was observing and feeling at the same time, and bombs were going off, and I was seeing red. I really understood that idea. And I was inside just on fire about all this, and this was going on, and I was receiving it and looking at it, and some of it I was seeming to analyze, other parts were just coming and going, and then suddenly it was gone. And I thought, well, what difference did that make? And this little voice pops back in and says, think about your father again. And I went, yeah, that was my old man. What's the big... I went, wait a minute. Where's the knot? And then think about her. I went, yeah, nice girl. What's the problem here? And I went, wow, what is this? So every day for 2 weeks I came back to class, and I would pick on myself. I'd find something to stimulate my internal grief about. And just do this process of following it and breathing with it and observing, and not trying to overly analyze, but analysis can be a part of it. Anyhow, my point here is this, that we're going to focus not on yogic breathing or anything special. We're just not going to hold our breath. We're going to let what comes up be there, and we're going to, when the breath comes in, we receive it. When the breath goes out, we release that breath in that moment. It may change, it may not change, it may dissipate, etc. You're going to be your own workshop for this. I'm just going through the drill here. So the experience is within you, and this isn't about screaming and crying and doing primal therapy. It's really about awareness and how the consciousness brings us that which we're ready to experience at any time that we will still ourselves enough. Now, let me just see what our next slide is here. Okay. So what I'm going to say to you, and don't worry about the slide part of it, we'll just do this at this point. So just make yourself as reasonably comfortable as you can. Basically uncross yourself if you are comfortable sitting 2 feet on the floor, and you can have your hands in your lap. Just don't do any of this stuff because it's a little restricting. And what you're going to do in a moment, and this is my last part of talking it through, is you're going to find something that you'd like to work on in the privacy of your own consciousness that you don't have to tell me or any other person about, even though I'm going to talk to you about some stuff. So we're going to take about a minute. As I'm talking to you, just find some issue. You can close your eyes for this. You can leave them open, whatever you're comfortable with. Something that's issue for you. And if it's the first thing that comes up, take it, because maybe it'll be something you can work with here in this process. And just find something. And if you have nothing at all that bothers you, congratulations. Make something up. I don't know. Okay. We've already agreed, and you can keep your eyes open or closed here. You can actually ignore me if you want. I'm going to try to just lead you along. We've agreed that our inner wisdom is the guide. I'm going to ask you to put your attention on this original situation, this issue, this thing right now that you want to get in touch with to improve in some way. I want you to know that your consciousness is going to do the work, and you have to simply be attentive. Observe yourself, be patient and forgiving with yourself, and we're not worried about perfection. We're just doing a little piece of work. I want you to focus on the part of your body, your entire body and being, where your attention may be drawn related to this situation, this issue. And all I want you to do right now is I want you to breathe in and out and continue to do that for many decades to come, but just while we're here, stay with it. And I want you to try to keep this issue in the forefront of your inner awareness. Some people see pictures or movies, some don't. Some just have an idea, a feeling, a sound, a memory. Whatever is true for you, I want you to be with that issue now. I simply want you to do breath by breath. Let it come and let the breath go, and just be there for whatever is. There may be nothing, something, a lot, a little. We're just taking our first step into this process. Breathe, observe, feel. Stay present with and for yourself, for no one else. We'll only take another 10, 20 seconds just for this so you can just observe. Follow, breathe. Breath by breath, just take a little time. And don't worry, this can always be shown to you at yet another time and you'll get it. Now, just notice for yourself. Bring up this idea of reintroducing the thing you were working with. And we're doing a kind of compressed version of this, albeit. Just bring up that situation and notice it again and see if it resides in the same place inside of you, with the same intensity, more or less. And if you are willing, if it's not uncomfortable for you, see if you can provoke it a little more. Enrich the picture. Throw some more on the fire here. Bring up another image or an association inside yourself. And allow expectation to not be the important part. Allow your willingness to receive yourself, breath by breath. There is no wrong way to do this. Just be with yourself. And just spend a few more seconds. We're going to do that again. And we'll talk about some other parts of this. And I'm not meaning to rush it, but out of respect for the willingness to stay this long, we're introducing this, and I can answer questions about it later. Now I'm going to ask you to just kind of come to and open your eyes and assess for yourself in this only couple minutes, truly, that we did this, and there are ways to work with it longer. Just assess for yourself your own experience, which I'm not trying to put any limits or size on. How did you feel about being perhaps uncomfortable? Yeah, how did you feel about being uncomfortable? Did you resist, deny, judge, get impatient? Were you able to stay focused? Did something change? Did you get an insight? Did you get the sense that you are capable, through an internal richness, a capacity that may not have yet been fully tapped, to develop and to grow and to connect in ways that maybe have not been that which we've been taught externally? Again, this is a couple short minutes here. Here's how you can know when this method or any other method that you work with for your own personal growth actually works for you. This is one of the tests. In a longer session, like when I would do groups of people or do individual sessions for up to a half hour or whatever, Sometimes you get these wonderful, great ahas, and we finally clear this thing, and I don't feel it in my body. I said, great, 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 wonderful. Now, here's how you're going to know if it really made a difference. This situation, this memory, this incident, this external or internal, will arise or come again into your life. You can almost guarantee it, right? That we don't fully eliminate and totally rid ourselves of every issue in our lives and every trauma. But what we do is we develop through, this is like pulling the curtain away. The more you do this kind of approach, you pull the curtain away on the Wizard of Oz. Because, and this was from my own discovery, the wizard has run us for a long time with whatever these internal issues are. It goes boo, and we go into habitual. We shut down, we react habitually. That's what neurotic behavior is. The same response to stimuli, to things that have no relation to our original traumas. And we're not going to get into a big psychological discovery or discussion. But when we are willing to receive, whether we like it or not, what is present for us, and we can breathe, we can respire through it. And we go, oh, really? Okay, give me your best shot. And it goes kaboom. And you go, well, give me your best shot. And it goes kaboom. We get at a certain point, and it may or may not happen after 3 minutes of introducing the idea, that is it, folks. That energy that puts us into our contraction, our fear, our shutdown, or whatever, that is all it takes to do it, because it's all it ever needed to take from the earliest point of our life, and we would cooperate and habitually go shut down in fear, whatever. When we are face to face with that wizard and we've pulled the curtain aside and it's going boo, at first it hurts. It makes us uncomfortable. We want to run and deny and judge and get away from it. And so we come back knowing that our inner wisdom is not going to give us anything we cannot handle. We go back, we say, okay, well, give me the best shot. And after a while, that knot, that mass, that congealed thing, whatever you saw or felt or sensed, starts to dissipate as it does in any dream when you focus on it. Not because I'm trying to say, I'm a lovable, wonderful person, I'm rich, I want the... You know, rich people don't have affirmations in the refrigerator saying, I'm a wealthy person. They know they're wealthy people. They got other things going on. And people that are healed of this issue or that, they don't have to put that up there either. So even the operating principles, just to acknowledge for ourselves, we have this inner consciousness ever developing. It is the miracle, the wisdom within, the spirit, the way it feeds our consciousness, all this stuff that we can learn about. And so if we will be curious like kids, you know, when children get curious about stuff, they're not in fear. There's that, isn't it a biblical saying, perfect love casteth out all fear? So love is understanding too. It is not necessarily to believe or to act or feel. It's to understand, to receive, to support that which is the best thing. When we do it for others, we love others. When we do it for ourselves, we're truly loving ourselves. So this is not about you have to follow anybody. The gift is to be reminded that you can trust your inner wisdom. When you have something, and no matter how long standing, you will not be overwhelmed. When you ask your own inner wisdom, your consciousness, if you want, your spirit, to guide and give you that which you're ready to receive and perceive. And sometimes, you know what? You get nothing. And sometimes nothing changes. And sometimes there are ahas. There can be all sorts of stuff, and I'm not going to make suggestions to you so that this is not a hypnosis session. This is for you to find out. And I really invite you to know that one of the ways of testing it, therefore, is when the external stimuli appears or reappears, do you have no choice over your behavior and you do the same thing? It's okay if you're aware of it. And I've been there, and I still go there sometimes with certain issues. Something stimulates it, and I'm back in my jive, but I know I'm doing it. When I'm in my next better self, I do anything but my regular song and dance when that thing is said to me, or when I come in contact with that particular person that still has my button or whatever. But I know I'm doing it, and when I know that a degree of mastery has occurred is when I go, okay, I'm not doing that. I think I'm going to do a specific other thing. I have choice. And this is the difference between being in fear of external authorities and gods and priests that are going to tell us things, and knowing from within, we choose. We are the authority in life. And this is not, and I'm not trying to to negate it. It's not the easiest thing for most people in this world at this time. Some people, yes, it's easy for. And it's not always easy for me. So the key to conscious and deliberate progress is the observation of our thoughts 24 hours a day. We choose. As we observe our thoughts, we notice what we're thinking and what we're perpetuating. So if we don't like that world out there, that relationship, we listen as we see the thought, as we hear the thought, as we feel it, we can say no thank you. Some people go uncreate that, not preferred, whatever. We replace it with a thought of our choosing. But we first have to acknowledge it. That's coming right back to what is. So we take back the power from the external source. This is our work. When the teachings are to be spread anew, quote unquote, sorry folks, it has nothing to do with that the teachings are that extraterrestrials are coming and that we have them walking among us and they're in the supermarkets and we're going to be on ships and I'm channeling this one. It's much more universally true. These extraterrestrials in this case, they meditate, they do their own work, and they make their mistakes to this day. And there's some famous ones in this case. So this isn't about perfection, it's about the process and the progress. When we think for ourselves, we do rediscover this immense and liberating power of true knowledge and timeless wisdom. That's the gift of life, not the ETs, not the prophets. It's the gift of life, of the creation, of the Spirit. It takes a reintroduction, a battle to bring it back in a world where we have now 3 major religions at each other's throats and every ism on the planet going, adding to the mess. So we might as well party on down and get to know ourselves, and have dominion. It's like dominion over self is how we rule. And justice is the lustrous, crowning jewel. The light of truth comes shining through for all the people in the world like you and me. And that's the silent revolution of truth as well. So I'm going to do one more little lyric, if I may, that takes it out of one place and puts it in another. You wander through the world, you know there's something you were born to do. And everywhere you wander, you'll hear your destiny call out to you. It's ringing true, for you are the hope of tomorrow. Yours are the dreams that never sleep. You're the one for whom life has just begun. You will find the stars within your reach. And you're gathering together everybody that you meet along the way, showing them the power of a heart that's free to give its love away. They'll hear you say, for you are the hope of tomorrow. Yours are the dreams that never sleep. You're the one for whom life has just begun. You will find the stars within your reach. But in a darkened moment when you fear there's not enough reason to keep going, instead of giving up, remember, for you are the hope of tomorrow. Yours are the dreams that never sleep. You're the one for whom life has just begun. You will find the stars within your reach. So that is a mini workshop with little suggestions placed in there, right? The workshop, I'm just going to tell you what's available. We're not going to do a big hard commercial, but I have to do something. So this is the Standing in Spirit DVD, which has some of the play hour and spiritual teachings on it and information, plus something like a 20, 30-minute workshop where you actually can sit while there's people doing it. You can do it for a longer period of time and be with it. This is, I'll mention this one. I haven't really put focus on it. I only mentioned the beginning. The Meier Context DVD, I put it out in 2004, and I talked about material in the Meier case from 1981 and 87, and some of the things that he put in prophecy and prediction back then and that are on this DVD occurred after this DVD came out. I call that legal proof. In other words, there's a copyright date on here. Even if you don't believe Meier said it in 81, 87, as I reported, it's on this, and the events happened a year and a half later. Such things as the Paris riots by the Islamic inhabitants and other things, and some things on there that we, with our Salome meditations and our standing in spirit, can see to and assure do not have to occur. You know, if we are guided by our inner wisdom, we are able to create a peaceful kingdom. And this, oops, I'm now running on reserve battery, okay. This is what this is about. The DVD is very comprehensive. It was the first one I put out. So it had the prophecies, predictions, and all this stuff. And I call it a collector's item because it will be something that you can turn to anybody and say, this has legal, legitimate proof. If you don't even want to believe the photos are real, and the scientific experts we quote on there, and the metal sample analysis, and the sound recordings, and the rest of the 2 hours of it, see those things written there? Look at the copyright date, and go on the internet and search and find out when those things happened. And they happened afterwards. And Still They Fly is a wonderful book by Guido Musburger, in which those earlier quotes about diplomacy and the hard language of truth. And I hope at this stage right now that you will understand that I'm not here to diss people. I'm not allergic to defending myself, and I don't mind that. And I think some things have to be said. But the main thing is that when we get into the language of truth, we're not afraid to be wrong. We're not afraid to be corrected. We don't have to make ourselves more than we are falsely, because what we are, in essence, is far greater than anything we could represent or concoct, being experts on anything or ET contactees or what have you. Again, this has things in it that were published and that occurred after the publication. So it's another great little item. The Talmud Emmanuel will be out in a few weeks. If you go to my website and you sign up on my website, I don't sell your name and I don't spam you. I will send you a notice as soon as the Talmud is out. You can read it for yourself. You can also then have the prophecies and predictions of Jeremiah and Elijah and Emmanuel, and you can make of it what you will. The letter from Isa Rashid to Billy Meier's in there, Meier's own comments and stuff. It's in German and in English, as they require these documents to be. That is the ball of wax up until now, the Meier update as of 2007. And some other components. The film will be out. We can't give you the exact date, but summer of 2007 is what we're saying. And if you like that little trailer, this will have a certain romantic and poetic quality to it, but we're putting the stuff out there for everybody to evaluate on their own. And so the only thing I can say at this point is I thank you very much for participating, for observing, sitting through it, and all the rest of it. And we'll be, if anybody wants the DVD or anything like that, we're in that room for a little bit until we have a meeting we have to go to, but we're in the main room over there. And feel free to find my associate Leon and me over there in a few minutes, okay? Thanks. Thank you.